Carl Bailey had no idea he would meet her. Yes, he was long accustomed to the unusual life on a remote space outpost, located light years from Earth, had taught him to live alongside the strangest beings and alien cultures. But none of those encounters prepared him for what happened this evening. His shift was supposed to be routine, a standard patrol on the edge of the station, just another day in the cold vacuum of space. But suddenly, his scanners picked up something strange. A faint, barely noticeable signal. At first, Carl thought it was interference, but the longer he looked, the clearer the image became. A damaged ship drifting in space. He quickly reached the vessel and docked. As he opened the airlock, he expected another rescue operation. But what awaited him beyond the door struck him to the core. An alien woman. Her skin shimmered with a soft, iridescent glow, and her large eyes seemed to contain entire galaxies, glowing with something strange and alluring. She was tall and graceful, and her form only vaguely resembled that of a human. A foreign, almost magical energy flowed through her movements. It wasn't just her appearance that captivated him. There was something magnetic about her presence. "Are you hurt?" Carl's voice trembled slightly as he approached, trying to keep his composure. She didn't respond immediately, just tilted her head slightly as if analyzing him. "I need help," she finally spoke, her voice even, with a barely perceptible accent. "My ship was attacked." Carl swallowed hard, his curiosity reaching its peak. There was an atmosphere of mystery around her that tugged at the edges of his mind. He gestured for her to follow him to the station, where her ship could be repaired, and the truth behind her attackers discovered. As they walked through the narrow corridors, Carl couldn't shake the feeling that her story held hidden depths. Her eyes continued to study every inch of the station with focused intensity, and her movements were graceful and fluid, as if she were gliding. "What's your name?" he asked when they reached the station's repair bay. She hesitated, as though debating whether to answer. "You can call me Elia," she finally said. "Elia?" Carl repeated, the name sounding strange to his ears. "I'm Carl. So, who attacked you?" Her gaze flickered, and her expression became unreadable. "That's complicated," Elia replied and turned her attention to the control panel of the ship, touching it almost reverently. "I need time to repair this." Her voice, distant and quiet, left Carl hesitant, but he was sure she was hiding something. She was different. There was a powerful aura of force around her that she barely contained. "What aren't you telling me?" Carl asked, stepping closer. Elia met his gaze, and the air between them seemed to thicken. She stayed silent, but a silent question, almost a challenge, flashed in her eyes. "Show me what you're hiding." Carl spoke softly but insistently. The corners of her lips curled slightly, but it wasn't a smile. It was more of a warning. "You're a brave man," she said quietly. "Brave and curious. But there are things better left unseen." Carl's pulse quickened, overtaken by strange excitement. But something about her, about the way she looked at him, urged him to press on, even though his intuition warned him it could be dangerous. "You don't know what you're asking," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it held a hint of threat. The space between them filled with strange energy, like static before a storm. When her fingers gently touched his chest, his body tensed, and his breath caught. "You wanted to know." Her voice was like silk. "And now I'll show you." The room lit up with a soft glow. Her body shimmered as if releasing a hidden power. It was more than just light. It was living energy, breathing and vibrating as if it were an extension of herself. "This is my power," Elia said softly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. "It's not just physical. It's the essence of creation and destruction." Carl froze in awe, trying to comprehend what he was seeing. "Can you control it?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Sometimes," she replied quietly, "but there are moments when the power slips out of control." "Why are they chasing you?" Her face darkened, and for a moment, a sadness crossed it. "This energy isn't meant for destruction, but in the wrong hands, it could become a weapon. They don't understand its danger," she said, looking him straight in the eyes. Carl's heart pounded harder. This was about more than just Elia, it was about something that could change everything. "What should we do?" he asked. Her gaze grew more determined. "You must decide, Carl. You wanted the truth and now you have it. You can walk away." Gathering his resolve, Carl replied, "I won't leave." She looked at him intently and slowly nodded. "Thank you, Carl. Understand, things will only get harder from now on. Many will hunt this power, and us as well." Carl had no intention of backing down. They stood together, and now he felt her strength like an unbreakable bond between them. That night, the station felt unusually quiet, the hum of engines echoing their hearts. Their fates were intertwined, and they would face the future together. As they moved through the dark corridors of the station, the silence was broken only by the occasional flicker of emergency lights and the distant hum of engines. But each step felt like the sound of thunder in the void, ominous and inevitable. The hunters were closing in. Carl and Elia sensed it, heard it on the edge of consciousness. The bond they now shared seemed to warn them, but at the same time, it held them together, like an invisible thread tied to their hearts and minds. Elia stopped, placing her hand on a panel hidden behind pipes and wires. The panel sparked, revealing a part of the wall that slid aside, opening a hidden path. Carl looked at her, still not understanding the significance of the moment but sensing its inevitability. "You knew it would only get harder," she said softly, her voice filled with tension and sadness. "I'll have to go. Alone." "What? No." Carl reached out, but Elia was already beginning to dissolve into a stream of energy, her light flowing like liquid gold. "We're together. I promised. You have to trust me, Carl. And remember, the bond between us is unbreakable now, even if we're separated." Before Carl's eyes, she disappeared, transforming into a stream of light that vanished into the depths of the station. His heart ached, their bond still alive, but he felt the power that had connected them growing, as if preparing to complete something. And when the footsteps of the hunters echoed from around the corner, he suddenly understood. They had already lost. But in this defeat, there was something grand, for Elia's secret, her power, was now within him, in his memory, in his spirit. The hunters drew closer, but Carl stood in silence, filled with strength and determination. He knew that this bond was more than just their story. It was an entire universe, sealed within his heart, and he would carry it to the end, however near that end might be.